Welcome to the Inspiring Tech Leaders podcast with me, Dave Roberts. This is the podcast that talks with tech leaders across the industry, exploring their insights, sharing their experiences, and offering valuable advice to help technology professionals. The podcast also explores technology innovations in the evolving tech landscape, providing listeners with actionable guidance and inspiration. Today I'm thrilled to welcome James Davies to the show. James is the UK, Europe and North America Managing Director for RP International. James is also a member of the Board of Trustees for Digital Advantage, an award-winning charity that delivers innovative work experiences to people of all ages and abilities, including those with special education needs. What a pleasure to have you here today, James.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I've been really looking forward to this. A little bit nervous, but I'm excited.
Well, I know you've got an incredible story to tell, and I can't wait for you to share this with our audience today. Let's jump straight in. Can you start off by telling the audience about your own journey and explain your connection with neurodiversity in the tech industry?
Really good question. So I am neurodiverse. So to put it into perspective, I was diagnosed at the age of 11 with dyslexia, ADHD, dyspraxia. It always makes me laugh. Trying to spell those words for people that can't spell is just bonkers. But anyway, that's the way it is. To put it into, I couldn't catch a ball at the age of 11. I'd never learned coordination. I didn't know how to crawl. I was behind in pretty much every subject, but I was really lucky that I had parents that were, my mum was actually a teacher and spotted it and sort of got caught and diagnosed quite early and managed to sort of get the support that I think is probably lacking in the UK at the moment, and got lots of support. I actually learned how to crawl again, which was fun. If you imagine an 11-year-old boy trying to crawl around the living room, looked like an absolute idiot, but at least I learned how to do it. And one of the things I was most proud of is that I couldn't catch a ball, I couldn't crawl at the age of 11. At the age of 14, I won the county championship at squash. And this is a bizarre bit. I'm actually left-handed. I learned how to play with my right hand and still won it. It was the county plate, so it wasn't the full championship, but as my friend keeps telling me, but still won it. Got written off at school, was bullied, looked different. For those that are dyslexic, you might know that different colour lenses help you read better. The colour that worked for me was red. So all the way going through high school, I had red glasses like John Lennon. If you never need an excuse to be bullied, that was the excuse. So it was always that bit different, but got written off at school and sort of then went on a journey of trying to prove everyone wrong. I managed to get to university, which is still to this day one of my proudest moments. I did IT, which is where my love of technology comes in. Did computer programming, but people that know, and I'm not stereotyping absolutely everyone, but people that are dyslexic don't always have the attention to detail that you need. So being a computer programmer, when you have to get hundreds of lines, thousands of lines all correct, I was rubbish, really, really rubbish. So I fell into recruitment and sort of ended up doing recruitment to this day. Fast forward many years, and I've got two heavily neurodiverse kids and a neurodiverse wife. My youngest has actually got autism as well as ADHD, and the eldest has got dysgraphia and ADHD. So wanted to really get the world of work a better place. I think if you look at society at the moment and you need to look at the news with EHCPs and stuff like that at the moment, it's a tough place for young kids coming through. There isn't the support. Organizations are struggling. People are struggling with reasonable adjustment. And I just felt I want to do something different and I want to try and help them. So I'm now very fortunate that I am a trustee of a SEN digital sixth form college called DISC College that I think I'll come on to in later questions. And I also sit on the steering group for Greater Manchester's neurodiverse community called NEON, which is a group of employers. Even this week, I was on a committee where we're looking to try and get Manchester to become the first neurodiverse city. Andy Burnham himself is actually spearheading it. So that's been a really good passion. So in answer to your question, I'm trying to make the world of IT better and more inclusive for dyslexic people, because I think there is a lot of skills and a lot of different ideas that come from neurodiverse people. And I think at the moment, IT is lacking of some of that.
Well, that really is an incredible journey and something you should rightfully be very proud about, given how successful your career has been. However, I'm really keen to understand what unique strengths or perspectives do neurodiverse individuals bring to tech roles and teams?
A lot. I'm really conscious not to overgeneralize on this, because I think you can put people into different categories. Autistic people are good for this and dyslexic people are good for this. But overall, I think there are sort of key areas that I think add value to the teams. I think you've got innovation and problem solving. Many neurodiverse people have an individual approach and an unconventional approach in some kind, and creative thinking that maybe a neurotypical don't have. Attention to detail, but again, going back to not generalizing, different types of neurodiverse have perhaps got better attention to detail than others. And I think there's a really important thing of having play to people's skills, not their weaknesses. Pattern recognition. So you only have to look at the cyber stuff at the moment with GCHQ. They're actively looking for neurodiverse people to join them. A focus on passion. If you get people that are hyper-focused in neurodiversity, they literally won't stop almost. It's bad in some cases how much they want to do and become specialists in that domain. And I think this one gets really overlooked is resilience and perseverance. A lot of neurodiverse people spend their whole life having to mask or trying to fit in, and you cannot underestimate the level of resilience these people have. They're trying to fit into a world that doesn't necessarily work for them. So their resilience and determination to do stuff, I think, is unparalleled. So I would say they are the skills that, in my opinion, are valuable to employers.
I appreciate that you said that you can't generalize about role types, but in your opinion, are there any particular roles or tasks in tech where neurodiverse talents tend to thrive more so than others?
Yeah, really good question. I think the ones I would say are things like quality assurance and testing. That gives people the attention to detail and spotting the patterns, which is obviously very good for a neurodiverse person. Data analysis, again, spotting that recognition and analytical skills. The standard old programming where people get to focus and logic and that side of it. I mentioned previously about cyber. People are looking for crucial ways of identifying threats. That's always very good. And then your more creative sides in terms of product innovation, that sort of side. So there are lots of areas really that people can add value.
Well, that's really fantastic to hear. So what are some of the common barriers neurodiverse candidates face during the traditional tech recruitment process?
I think there are a few, and the good thing is they are quite easy to get around, but you have a look at the people still have a very rigid application process. They're still looking for CVs that maybe are too based around ATS, so application tracking, keyword systems, or they're looking at not looking for unconventional career paths. They're looking for more of the traditional ones, and sometimes people don't have that. So one of the things I would say that people need to look for is maybe like video CVs, that sort of side of it. Also, there are ones where some strong candidates who might be really good technically get screened out due to the lack of polish on the CV, or maybe sometimes the interpersonal skills, but actually are fit to do the role. So sometimes that gets people out of the question. The other big barriers are poorly designed interviews. So you have a look at how people are asking the questions. Sometimes it's very ambiguous. Sometimes it's unstructured. Autistic people, for instance, need structure, need very clear questions. Sometimes the high pressure interviews, especially if it's a panel or on the spot questions, a lot of people can get flustered. Actually, you can get flustered whether you're neurotypical or neurodiverse on this sort of side. And also looking at how to demonstrate their ability under stress. Sometimes that can be very difficult, especially when it's a really strong technical role. So this isn't just for neurodiverse people. I think it should be for everyone. It's about making people in an interview situation feel comfortable. Once you feel comfortable, and you perform better. So things like go and give the questions ahead of time. Make sure that the recruiter or the TA helps prep them to shine. Look at what reasonable adjustment they need. Do they need to come in and have a look around the interview space or walk into the building before they come? People like Autotrader and the BBC and the BT are absolutely phenomenal at this at the moment. They really make the people feel at ease and feel like they're going into somewhere that's safe. And ultimately, because what you want to do is people to be at their best and give their best possible description or best possible self to the interview. And I think the more we can do these sort of things, the better. Other bits to include are making sure the job descriptions are clear. So overly vague or overly broad job descriptions sometimes can put people off. Looking at concrete tasks may also discourage people from applying. So make sure that the job description is really, really well written. And also looking at, when you're interviewing, unconscious bias. Now, unconscious bias comes in a lot of different forms in terms of race, in terms of disability, but don't assume anything. Don't assume because they've got a certain need that they can't be a good team worker or they can't be a good communicator. Really look and just ask the questions and don't assume. And I think that's important throughout any interview, really.
It's really interesting that you mentioned biases there. So what are some of those misconceptions or biases that still persist in hiring managers when it comes to neurodiversity?
I think you've got the common ones where all the sort of autistic people are sitting in a cupboard and just code. All ADHD people are running around the room and being nuisances. I think you just have to treat everyone as an individual and just put on their own values and try not to get in misconceptions of what they are.
So how can job descriptions be made more inclusive and accessible to neurodiverse applicants?
So in terms of job descriptions, it's thinking about who your target audience is. So having visuals in there, making it so it's easy to read, making sure they can see there's no complicated or over wordy parts to the job spec. Is very clear what the expectation is and what you need from it. And just keeping it simple. People try to write job specs that are war and peace. It's just making it so they feel that they can apply for it.
Are there specific hiring models such as skill-based assessments or trial projects that work better than interviews?
Yeah, and that's a really good one because I think a lot of companies are trying to move more to this way now. So it's just about understanding what you're trying to get out of the interview. I think sometimes interviews can be quite archaic and the way we've always done it, so therefore we continue to do it. And I think you've got to look at what are the skills you need to get from that. And what are the most important things you need from it? Are you just looking for skills that aren't necessarily needed for the role anymore? So, for instance, it could be that it's around the interpersonal skills and the role doesn't need it. Or just it's really being clear about what you need and how can you sit down with them in an honest, sort of vulnerable way and just talk to them about and let them talk back to you and really get a true feeling what's going on. And then look at work-based examples, look at projects, look at things that they can do to show their skills rather than just a competency-based tick box exercise.
That's fantastic. So what kind of onboarding practices help neurodiverse new hires succeed?
There's quite a lot around this. And one of the things I'm really passionate about at the moment is I think the FTSE 100, the big companies are really doing this well. And look at Ernst & Young and you look at how they onboard people. They've got millions of pounds to do it and they do it really well and they have buddy systems and they make sure that what it really well sort of set out of what expectation is, what they're going to do, having really clear calendars of the first 3 months of what and how they're going to be doing it, but all that sort of good thing. And now I think maybe the SME side of the world in the tech field struggles on this a little bit. And it's just about setting out from day one, go backwards and plan what do you want this person to do, what training's needed, who are they going to work with, and start to have that all in a big document. So when they start to land, you can start to work with them about and give clear feedback, have one-to-ones and create an environment where they feel safe to say, actually, I'm a little bit scared or I don't know how to do this. And it's also making sure you're building the role around their strengths, not their weaknesses. Now, obviously, they need to be able to do the job. And this is where your interview process needs to be rigorous enough that you can make reasonable adjustment and you need to talk to them in the beginning about what reasonable adjustment they need. And that needs to be in the interview process because you need to, first of all, understand if you're able to make that sort of reasonable adjustment and still the job to be commercially viable. But if you are, how can you start to put that in place? And it's a really honest and open conversation that you've got to have with each other about how you like to work as a manager and how the employee likes to work as an employee, and really just learn to get to know each other. And I think sometimes people can be scared of that and scared of putting themselves out there. The amount of people at the moment, I was at an event last week and something like 60% to 70% of people don't declare any disability or any kind of neurodiverse on the forms when they join. And I think that's where we make the mistake because we don't feel psychological safety to do that. And then it comes to a new employer, they don't know us. And often people fail because they haven't got the right support. So we as managers have a right or an onus almost to put it out there that we want you to be honest with us. We want you to feel safe, to tell us about what you need and how we can support you.
I couldn't agree with you more. So how can hiring managers best support neurodiverse employees day to day?
I think this isn't just unique to neurodiverse people. I think a lot of what I'm saying today is just good practice as a good manager, as a good employer. I think it's listening. I think it's having clear check-ins, having clear structure with them about what you expect from them and what they expect from you, and just being really upfront with that, being there to listen, being there for as a point of escalation, being there just to help them develop. And I think just being a good sort of human being as much as anything, and making them feel psychologically safe. Because I think if you find an organization where you feel safe, people perform better, they're less anxious, they get more done, and ultimately they thrive. And that's what you want. You want an environment where people are thriving and enjoying what they do, and therefore coming up with new ideas, looking at new ways of doing things, innovation. And we've already talked about all the skills that people can bring with neurodiversity. They have to feel safe to want to do that.
I agree, that's really important that we create the right environments to ensure people feel safe to have the conversations. Are there any organisations, resources or tools you recommend for companies looking to get better at neurodiverse hiring?
Look, there are lots, and I can only sort of go over the ones that I have come across. So there's a signpost would be very much to a couple of organizations, one called a Do It Profiler, which is a kind of a tool that allows you to understand your workforce and whether they have any sort of neurodiverse tendencies. It's by no means is it a formal diagnosis, but what it does is it's a profiling tool. It's a lady called Amanda Kirby and Melanie Francis who run it, and you do a simple sort of online test, and it gives you, right, Dave, you are lean towards ADHD, dyslexia, blah, blah, blah. And then it will give you techniques to how to manage them better and how they can actually look after themselves better. So we did it in my last organization. And we had a young lady who was really, really struggling. And we put her through the tool, and it showed that all we really need to do was give her some more space in terms of alone time in a meeting room so she could actually think properly, noise cancelling headphones, and just built her day around small bite-sized chunks rather than just here's what you need to do for the entire day. And she went on to really thrive and did very well. She was one of the top performers for a number of years. So again, that's a great tool to use. And then there's a gentleman called Dr. Tony Lloyd, who is a sort of thought leader around this. Look at some of the posts he puts out and around neuro-inclusive hiring. There are some really, really good things. And a lot of it, you'd be surprised, is common sense, but it's just not being afraid to ask. I think there's a real scared side of society where you don't want to ask the awkward question in case you seem like an idiot. Go to events, go to the Neon event if you're in Manchester, go and talk to other organizations and just look at how you can really just improve your process, because we've all got to be brave and say, do you know what, we don't necessarily know how to do this all the time, but we are trying, and let's keep trying. And I think that is something that people sometimes stay away from because they think if I don't know it, I'll get victimized. No, don't, please. Let's just talk about it and create the conversation.
Well, that's great advice. So how can listeners learn more or get involved in promoting neurodiversity in tech?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of great ways. I think I've recently got involved with DISC, which is a special education college in Manchester. It's a digital one. Go to things like that. They're crying out for ambassadors. They're crying out for people to come and talk about what they do in tech. They're crying out for people to offer work placements and stuff like that. So really just sort of immerse yourself in that sort of side. Or if you're not in Manchester, go to your local SEN school and just offer to give talks or offer to do show rounds of your offices. A lot of these people don't have any real experience of tech or what it is, and we want to open their eyes to it. So please keep, if you can do anything like that, do, because I think an hour of your time will give the world to some of these kids and even set what their career is for life. So just look at that, and then also look at some great other charities. There's things like Rise Up and people like that where they are trying to get kids in with barriers such as neurodiversity into technology. So just have a Google or reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to point you in the right direction. But just try and get involved.
That's been so insightful, but that's all we have time for today. A huge thank you again, James, for sharing your own journey and insights around neurodiversity. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. It just leaves me to say thank you once again for being part of the Inspiring Tech Leaders podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I really enjoyed this. It's been brilliant. So thank you very much.
And if you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. It really helps the channel to continue to grow, and I always love hearing your feedback and suggestions for future episodes. You can find more insights, show notes, and resources at www.inspiringtechleaders.com. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in tech.